because you felt that, here we are paying, good amounts of money to these people, but they're not really helping achieve what we want.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the saddest things for me is that it seems to be a very selfish, driven leadership. That everybody's doing what is good for me. Hey everybody, my name is Angie Murenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's Mwenye Inchi Monday, where we discuss all things governance. And today I have a guest, Dr. Tim Mwangi, but I'll let him introduce himself because he wears many hats. Karibu sana daktari.
Asante sana. It's nice to be here.
Thank you.
For Mwenye Inchi Monday.
Yes.
And thank you for this initiative. I think that's the first thing, that we have Kenyans discussing how we can improve our own governance.
Yes.
Yeah, so my name is Tim Kiruhi. I am serving currently as a Vice-Chancellor at the International Leadership University, but previously have also served as the leader at ELNET, and that's actually why we got to meet Angie.
Yes, that's where we met.
Yeah.
And maybe just tell people about ELNET, because it's Ethical Leaders
Leadership Network.
Leadership Network.
Yeah, thank you.
But I was in the governance arm, so I know that there are different arms.
That's true.
So just tell them a little bit about this. I know we'll be talking to Joshua later, who is actually running it.
Yeah.
But that's how I met you.
Thank you. Yeah, ELNET was a response in some ways to the need we have in our nation.
Okay.
I think to realize that although we have values undergirded in the Constitution, which is a very big thing, many people are impressed about that in other nations of the world, we have not been able to actualize them in real life, in day-to-day life. So they don't influence how we govern, they don't influence how we do business, for example, and so on. And so we felt it was important to bring leaders together who cared about the country to begin to address that in very practical ways. And so that's how Ethical Leadership Network was born. And we've been able to make some strides and in the areas of governance, in the area of business, and the area of mentorship also of young people, so that we can instill these values and pass them on to the next generation.
What has been your greatest frustration at the time that you were at ELNET before you proceeded to Vice-Chancellor?
I think it's part of that gap, because you'd wish to see more. Because we believe we have the solution to the country's ills, because we believe it's a values transformation.
Yes.
And yet, unfortunately, sometimes there is working with those in offices. I know that at times we would even approach, say, for example, state offices or state officers who are charged with the responsibilities of actually implementing now what you feel you have solutions for. And so seeing the lethargy, seeing the indifference, so to speak, that was not nice. Because you felt that, here we are paying, good amounts of money to these people, but they're not really helping achieve what we want.
I think for me, one of the saddest things for me is that it seems to be a very selfish, driven leadership. That everybody's doing what is good for me. And nobody's not even thinking of even what is good for the whole, or what is good for the nation. It's all about but what's in it for me.
That is true. But I think the other part of it, of course, is that it is the citizenry is to blame also in part.
That's true. Oh,
because we are the people who put these people in office.
That is true.
Whom we know very often on the outset, even from their track record, that they have no capacity to hold some of these offices.
That is true.
But maybe with the frenzy that comes around elections and so on, we vote some of these people in.
But that might be a good place to start. Why do we do that, Dr. Tim, in your observation?
I think, again, I would go back to values. I think for many of us, tribe or ethnicity is still a very strong value compared to all the other things. So you'll know that this person does not have the other values I'm looking for. I'm looking for a leader who is conscientious or who has character. So even though this person may not, but they come from my community.
So I have to vote for him.
I have to vote for him. I can't let my community down. And of course, during that time, there's a lot of hype around belonging. And I think maybe coming back to identity, I think for many of us, we've not moved our identity beyond the, our regions of birth and things like that.
So it overshadows everything
else. So we make bad decisions as a result. And then, of course, the consequences live with us for 5 years, the impact of that on the economy, on the nation, on the psyche in the country, on the youth, you know, the impact is significant.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then for me, because I want to talk about your governance journey, but for me also one of the greatest, I think, I don't remember why you approached me to do or do you usually send out a blanket email, I don't know, but anyway, I got to approach to do the certification for ethical leaders and for the ethical business. And I was like, okay, let's do this.
No, that's good.
And I remember when I was coming to get the results or the feedback, that's the first time I was like, oh, I wonder whether it's good or bad. But the thing that drove me is I wanted to know. So for me as a lead, I wanted to know, are we running an ethical business?
Yeah.
Because we could say we're running an ethical business, but there was an assessment now. And then myself, am I an ethical leader? And and it was really good to do well and to score well.
Yes.
My heart was palpitating when I came to get the results. But I was actually surprised when you said I'm the only pastor who has subjected myself to that assessment.
It's true.
And that's another thing I want you to weigh into.
That is true.
Why would you not agree to go through the process?
I think those fears are very real, unfortunately. I don't think that has changed. Maybe Joshua can confirm. I don't think we have yet had another pastor still.
That's not right.
Which is not right, because
my heart sinks to my feet.
That is true, because then everybody can say I'm ethical. But then unless there is some objective way of determining that, then there's no way and we feel that gives you the freedom now to be able to say it, or to even others recognize, and that gives you a platform, you know, to be able to minister even in terms of influence people using those values and so on. So I would say that I think we are afraid to let people look into our closet. So I must commend you for your courage to be willing to be scrutinized, so to speak. And because not many of us are able to do that. And I think, that saying that an examined life is not worth living.
But I'm still disappointed in that whole thing, because they have huge churches, which I know they are very ethical in their practices. They are audited accounts, published on websites, open. So I don't understand why they don't want to be, why they want to go that extra measure.
I think that's something worth maybe researching a bit more, maybe so that I don't put so many of my thoughts and feelings into it. But I would say I agree with you that we need to have more. We need to have more voices speaking to this space. And because I know the impact that we've had. I think we've been with you to like USIU. You remember that session where the students had actually really come to the conclusion that ethics is not possible.
It's not possible.
But when they listen to the journey of a real person, and especially who has been assessed, who has, who is open to be accountable, you could remember, and it didn't matter even what faith they came from. Even some of those from other faiths seem to be more ardent about that this is possible. And because we are very clear that for us that ethics is founded on the values of Jesus Christ, that gives us an opportunity for witness. So it is true that I think we are neglecting opportunities that would be out there to be relevant and to address these needs. But I think we need to find out what is a fear. Because it's a real fear, because it's not for lack of attempt to try and get, because you thought that was the easiest constituency, let's start there before we go to other people. But it has unfortunately not been as successful. But that's a discussion I think we need to continue.
That is true. And your own governance leadership journey?
Sure. Thank you. I don't think I would have set, maybe when I was much younger, maybe to encourage the young people out there. I would not have thought that this is a space I would occupy. But I think I was, the commitment to values, the commitment to being responsible as a citizen, as we talk about mwenye nchi, to recognize there is something you can do. So I think from the earliest days, I remember maybe my earliest expression of governance was being in a matatu as a Christian, and they were playing really dirty music. And I remember this was way back, maybe, maybe I had just left university, maybe I was still a student. And I remember going up to the conductor and the driver and saying, I don't think that music is fair, to everybody who is here. At least not for myself. Would you mind putting on music that's good for everybody? And I remember all the other people looking around and thinking, this thin, small boy I was then. But I think something within me was I would reawaken to the fact that I knew that change would not come unless all of us participate. So I think those are maybe my earlier expressions, and maybe others and so on. But I think certainly being around Elnet and seeing other leaders who are doing something for the country, at least when we did something around Vision 2030 and getting that values foundation being passed by the National Economic and Social Council, all the way chaired by the President and the Prime Minister at the time, I think that again boosted to realize, okay, maybe things are not happening because nobody is doing something. So being in that space and helping to mobilize the leaders who did that work was definitely very significant. I think another part of this process, and of course then we continued with Elnet and so on, but in 2016, you may remember that I got I was encouraged by a friend to apply to be a chair of a university council. It's not something I would have wanted, but again, I remember the words that I was asked by one of the Vice-Chancellors, and I'm here maybe credit of her. She asked me, because I talked with her and she asked me, do you like to apply? You come highly recommended. And specifically, she had gone to somebody that I've had a chance to mentor and asked him, recommend to me some people that are ethical. She was very specific about that, people of integrity, and who we can approach to be the chair of our council, because their current council was lapsing. The university council is like the governance organ. And so I remember her calling me. It happens to be my birthday of the year.
Wow.
So I thought, so I think in the evening I laughed it off with my wife. That, I had a birthday gift of somebody, a Vice-Chancellor of a university calling me, to do something about, to apply. And I thought that's not a space I operate in, because I thought again it was politics. So even though I'm still in the governance space, I'm also kind of not really taking my full space as a mwenye nchi. But I told her at the time, I'm sorry, it's not quite in my space. I'm doing other things for the country and so on. So she told me, no, think about it and so on. Well, unknown to me, she would call me 3 days later and ask me, have you changed your mind? Wow. So I told her, well, not quite. But I told her, now this time round, I'm going to be serious about thinking about it. And I actually committed to pray and think about it. But this is what she told me as she was leaving the conversation. If you don't apply, I guess the reason you are not wanting to apply is because you don't want to be inconvenienced. Yeah. But in this space, unless you are willing to pay the price and be inconvenienced, you cannot bring change.
That is so true.
And if you don't do it, tens of other people are going to apply who are not ethical,
yes.
but who will come in because of what they can get, the selfishness we talked about. And they will leave our institutions, ransacked and dry. How will you feel as a good Kenyan? This is a mwananchi now. When you're seeing the country coming to its knees, yet you have everything you had everything it takes to be able to make a difference. Yeah. And I couldn't sleep with that question. I knew it was a call from God even beyond this particular individual. And so anyway, that's how I signed up. I applied. I was applying for a small university. This happens to be a small university in the center of the country. And unknown to me, the then Minister for Education was Dr. Fred Matiang'i, and appointed me because he would nominate. He actually appointed me to be the chair of the council for the University of Nairobi.
Really?
I would not have guessed this in my wildest dreams.
I love that, and I love God.
Yeah.
So you were going to say yes to this?
Yeah.
And then he was going to amplify it.
Now, why I couldn't say no eventually was because when he called me, because eventually he wanted to make sure I don't say no, he said, the reason we are appointing you is because of the work you've already been doing for our country in the areas of ethics and governance and leadership and so on. And I thought, this is so good. So finally, I knew that it was important to God. It was also important to the leaders in the country. They care about these things and they would like to see this promoted. Wasn't the easiest of tenures. I had some difficulties, because of course there are people for whom that would be difficult. But I did serve for about 8 months or so as a chair for the Council for the University of Nairobi. Now unknown to me, God was doing something beyond this. So I was, eventually I was removed. There was community court battles and so on. Nothing of my own doing or anything wrong. But I was posted to a small university college, Tharaka University College. I moved from the biggest and the most prestigious university to the youngest and the least, in terms of the smallest number. It had just started up.
But that's so biblical. God has been teaching me about first to last,
last
to first. And I've been saying, I don't want to pray that prayer. He's been saying, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Then I have to stop and think, where am I going to? Where am I going? Am I the last going to first, or am I the first going
that is true.
to last? But it's biblical.
But even in that, God makes no mistake. So I'm out here in this small university. I had to find it. It was not on Google Maps. I had to find it.
It wasn't on Google Maps.
Yeah, now it is. I think we've since put it on the map. It's somewhere in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. But here was an opportunity for me to learn to see how a small university grows.
And how it evolves.
Yeah, I was just here yesterday. And because there was a visit by the PS, the Principal Secretary for Education, and he's so impressed with what we've done, even the council that I chair, and basically told us now in a year's time he believes that we'll be ready for charter. So amazing. By the grace of God, I've been able to do it now. Unknown to me, God wanted me to go through that journey to prepare me for another journey.
Oh.
So sometimes last year when I was approached by the International Leadership University to be the Vice-Chancellor, it all began to come together. No wonder the minister had to move me into this space to be able to help with higher education. And then Nairobi was good for to be introduced into this space, so I happened to be known by people in that space. And then I needed to be in a place that was smaller because I live as a smaller university to see how to grow it up. So God makes no mistake.
He doesn't. And
but it's been so I think in a sense I've been sometimes a reluctant leader. There are times I've taken initiative, but for the most part, I think God often has to kick me a bit to get into that space. But I do realize now that I have a responsibility. So the other day, being at a forum with other vice-chancellors, and then we had the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development presenting, because in a few years' time, even universities will be doing the CBC curriculum, the competence-based curriculum. And them saying that their vision for the competence-based curriculum is based on the vision for the values and vision of Vision 2030.
Wow.
And so they said how they want young people in Kenya to grow up to be ethical, to be responsible. So hey, we have some people coming into this space of Mwananchi. I hope with the CBC, because that is one of their values, is for young Kenyans to be responsible. So the work you've been doing to promote the values and so on, I think by God's grace is getting noticed out there. It was very, 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 very rewarding to do that. Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you brought that out as we bring this to a conclusion and come back next, because that's what Mwananchi is about. I wanted to showcase ordinary Kenyans who are doing something. Because sometimes the problems that are facing the nation, you can look at it and just say, where are we even going to start? But it also reminds me of Nehemiah. We each do our part where we are, and then it will create the whole. And that was amazing. So I'm loving your journey.
Oh, no, thank you.
I like to laugh. I'm going to laugh at you first before it comes back to jump on me. But I think that's amazing, because that journey was the journey you said yes to. You know, it's like when you say yes to God here, He has so much more.
Oh, certainly. I mean, if I was go back now 30 years ago, a student of engineering, great prospects at the time, but God says, no, this is not the path I have for you. I have a different path and so on. But would I have in my wildest dreams have assumed that this is where I would be sitting today.
And that's why I want us to start next week.
That's
because
good.
That story fascinates me.
Thank you.
It fascinates me. And then as a parent, I want to cry fast. Then as a leader, I say, no, this is the leadership thing to do. So I always approach it from different ways, because you said yes to something and no to something else, which was the norm.
It's true.
But I think God was teaching you about values from way
before I appreciated what it was.
30 years ago.
That is true.
Wow. I hope you've been blessed. I have learnt a lot from this talk that we've had with Dr. Tim. I call him Dr. Tim Wangi, but your name is Kiruhi.
That's okay.
And it's Mwananchi Monday, and we're so glad that you are here. Please tune in next week so that we can listen to the next part of this conversation.
Sure.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.